Hello, hello. Welcome back to Gathering Folds. My name is Madonna Yoder, and today I'm folding a brand new pattern that uses only open hexagon and closed triangle twists. And I'm doing this more as a demonstration than a tutorial. I'm using this massive grid. I already folded the grid in advance because you wouldn't want to sit through an hour of me just folding the grid. And for this next hour, I'm going to be folding the pattern on this paper. Good morning, Chris. So yes, I can see your comments and questions, and I'm happy to talk about things that I'm doing as I do them. Feel free to ask questions. And I'm gonna go ahead and get started with an open hexagon twist in the center. Now you might be wondering, how am I finding this center? And that is happening because I have pinch marks along the edge that tell me what grid line goes through the center. And those were necessary pinch marks that allow me to fold this pattern in a way that has a nice pleated border, like an even pleated border, as even as it can be with this pattern, all the way around. And so those pinch marks are landmarks that I'm using as I'm setting up this first twist, until I have enough pleats that I can recognize the twist from the center, and then I'm just verifying when I reach the edge that I'm in the right place. But yeah, this grid has 96 divisions, so there's a lot going on. It's a very large grid. And for those of you curious about the math, 96 divisions is 48 times 2, and 48 is 3 times 16. So we have 1 division of 3, and 5 divisions of 2 to get to 96. And from here, the next triangles are on the opposite side. I'll zoom in because all my references are from the center now. And let's see, I have 4 spaces. So not the standard tube pleat, but 2 spaces further out, so I can fit in those next hexagons on this same side. And having some extra challenge getting my pleats where I want them to be, because the grid is so big it's spilling off the edge of my desk. So like I mentioned a moment ago, those next hexagons are going to be on the same side of the paper. So I may as well go ahead and get them in place. You can see that even though these next triangles are spaced far from the center, they are not spaced far from these hexagons. Gonna have this next plate right up on top of the next hexagon. For now, I might change that spacing later, or that layering. And again, and that next triangle out is also on this side of the paper. So this is looking a lot like triplicate so far, except in triplicate this triangle would be on the same side as the first hexagon. And triplicate is one of these open hexagon closed triangle patterns that I folded in a live stream in January. So you can already watch that one. And triplicate had some flagstone elements, and this one won't quite be flagstone, but it will have high density. Welcome, Erlu. Glad you could join us. And then I repeat and repeat and repeat. So one of the things that you can notice with all of these open hexagon, closed triangle patterns, I'm always, well, with the exception of the very central hexagon, I'm always adding 2 triangles for each new hexagon. And that is a feature of the underlying tiling that I can notice and bring into the pattern itself. And so the layering that I'm choosing on these isn't necessarily the layering that I'll end up with. It's just the one that's most convenient for now. I was looking at the pattern before I started and picked out a probable layering that I'll use for the whole thing that can be symmetric. But we're not at a point where we have the other symmetry points on the paper, so it's a bit harder to to say what that's going to be. So for now, I'm leaving things in the layering that's most convenient to squash the twists. So at the very end of this ring around the center, I won't have any pleat overlaps, but in this stage right before we get there, we're going to have these 4 pleat overlaps, just temporarily. And I'm noticing that the glare is kind of bright on the paper, so I'm going to lower the exposure a bit. This is actually a golden sheet of paper. Like not literal gold, but yellow. Looks kind of tan creamish on my screen. And this one, we already have that triangle. So our 2 triangles, this one's going to be placed the same way as we've been placing them. And the other is going to be out here. That's this whole ring around the center. Time for the next one. And let's see. I'm going to have hexagons on this side of the paper, but some of my triangles are going to be on the other side. I'm thinking it's going to be easiest to locate those triangles on the other side first. So we've got this nice, like those lines are going to show up really nicely in backlighting because there's two pleats stacked on top of each other, very thick. Let's see, if I orient to match my crease pattern, then this top plate of these 3 parallel plates is the one that goes to my next triangle twist, and that has 4 spaces between valleys. And I'm going to go ahead and make that a compound wrap. It's heading into the hexagon on the other side. Of course, when I did that, it did not go where I wanted it to go. No biggie. So there's my position of 3-fold rotational symmetry in this pattern. And over here on that compound wrap goes the next open hexagon. Ooh, that did not squash nicely. Why did it not? Okay, that's better. Maybe some unevenness in the grid. Oh well. And I do kind of want both of those triangles to be down. I mean, one of them has to be on top of the other, but they can be both below the other hexagon. I think that's how I want to do things. But either way, I'm gonna have okay, so I'm gonna have 3 of these guys for each of these hexagons that are close in, 2 that are far away, and 1 that's on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and do that one on the other side so I can use the same spacing that I had before. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and place it as a 3-way intersection for the moment. so I can read off of that what my spacing is over here. Yeah, so earlier on, I think you're asking about the size of the paper that I'm using for this. This is bigger than the larger hexagon template that I have available on my, like, the actual acrylic template. I do have other sizes of template files that are in my my cutting templates freebie, but I don't think I have this giant hexagon size in there. This one is specifically sized to work on the full-size sheets of Skytone. The it would be 38 or 35, no, 25 by 38 inches. So this one is sized to max that out. But I don't think I have it very accessible as a size otherwise, but I'm happy to work with people and figure out, like, what paper do you have available to you, and how can we figure out a template that is going to work best for your situation. Like, I'm happy to draw up a hexagon that you can send as a file to a laser cutting service. And yeah, 64 divisions does feel like a very long time the first time you do it. 96 is actually past my theoretical upper limit for this project with the open hexagon and closed triangle twist. I told myself I wasn't going past 80, but then a couple of them really wanted to be 96. And here we are. But those are going to be rare because it took a long time to fold this grid. But yeah, I actually, on Friday, I was planning to finish this grid, and then I went and folded a different pattern on 80 grid divisions instead. And because it was like a new design that I really wanted to fold. So then I had guests at my house all weekend and didn't actually finish this until last night, which is not the timing I would prefer for getting things done for this morning. But yeah, big grids take forever. Okay, so now I'm looking back at the spacing I had on this twist, and I can see I'm going out here for the triangle wrap to the other side. So I learned something between the last repeat and this repeat. We're just gonna go and see how far I can get until the top of the hour. And yeah, we'll find out. But yeah, you can see why I named this pattern Infinity Calling, because we're going to see this infinity sign in backlighting. So we're going around making all of these infinity sign pairs. Yep. You might notice that I'm not actually folding this plate firmly all the way to the edge. That's because it's really dense spacing and I'm about to remove it as I fold the next hexagon. So why would I bother to fold that plate all the way to the edge? The only thing it could do if I fold it all the way to the edge is smear off the grid line. And that's pretty much the only difference when I'm folding on these massive grids compared to folding on smaller grids. I won't insist that the pleats make it all the way to the edge if I'm going to immediately undo them to fold the next thing. And there I didn't bother to do the compound wrap. Not really as a intentional, didn't bother. Although it's pretty easy to undo given this, to undo the pleat overlap given the spacing here. I just didn't think about it before I was squashing the twist, and I was like, whatever. At this point, I'll go ahead and put on the music on my headphones and just fold silently until more questions come up. And by the way, you should not be hearing the music on my headphones. Because that would be a copyright issue. So I'm listening to a Spotify playlist called Latin Guitar Cafe. And I've got it on shuffle. So if you want to listen to the same music, you totally can. And here I've got extra plate overlaps because I'm approaching the end of the ring around the center. Ooh. I don't think I've listened to those groups before. I'll have to check them out. Thanks for the recommendation, Erlen. Yeah, no music is also helpful if you aren't sure of what you're doing. For me, I really like to jam out when I'm folding. Often I'll listen to podcasts, but I'd say for things that are like really difficult, I usually do music instead of podcasts because I don't have to pay quite as much attention. So this string around the center is done. It's time to start the next one, and that will include some repeats of the center. But that's not the first thing that we'll run into. Yeah. Have this guy. Actually, which way do I want to go? It's starting to differentiate. Do this, the plate will run here. That's no good. Okay, so then, and now I'm pausing the music so I can figure this out. Okay. Well, whatever it does use that triangle. So that's my landmark. Okay. So I found a landmark. I can resume the music. Maybe. But shouldn't the closest one there be on this side? Okay, taking a step back. Okay, so this is the same as this. Good. Ew. Got it. Okay, I did have the triangle right. I was just trying to put the hexagon on the wrong side of the paper. Well, that's really cool earlier that you play multiple instruments and sing. I haven't played saxophone or piano in a while, but I do sing in a choir. That's been a ton of fun lately. I actually had choir practice last night, and we're approaching a concert in a couple weeks. So okay. So I know this one goes on the other side in here. Where does this one go? Needs to be on the same side. This twist doesn't have one going to the triangle on the opposite side, so that's going to have to be on this plate. let my computer fall asleep there. Hopefully that didn't interrupt anything. Yeah, really playing in front of people is just a whole different ball game than playing on your own. But it's totally doable. I mean, I started playing instruments in school, so there were always performances. And I was in marching band in high school, and there were performances every week. I got pretty used to it from that. And now, like, if the song leader at church asks, like, there's a whole email chain of us that they can ask to sing up front on Sunday. I might not even know all the songs. And I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll learn it in the hour before church. And I mean, I might practice beforehand, but I'll happily get up and sing in front of a crowd of people, most of which I know. So, yeah, these days I don't have much performance anxiety, especially after 3 years of weekly live streams. And yeah, don't know how to pronounce your name, but I'm so glad that you're enjoying seeing the tessellations and trying them for yourself, and it's definitely something that I encourage people to try to fold. Like, not necessarily this one right away, but tessellations in general. You can get a lot of enjoyment from watching them, but I think the bigger enjoyment is figuring them out for yourself. Good morning, Zach. I'm glad you could stop by. I think I'll do another set of parallel pleats and then call it a day. I do have other, so the tessellations by tiles and tessellation starter sequence joint office hour is also today at noon, so an hour from now, more or less. And so I can't, unfortunately, just stay here until this piece is done. But it's off to a good start. Let's see. So right now, for Zach. Yeah, Zach would be an hour or two before me. Okay, this one was headed to that triangle. And on the topic of figuring out what time things are, I'm one of the teachers in the geometric origami convention this weekend. And so oh yeah, 8 a.m. It's very early. I was rolling out of bed at 8 a.m. So for the geometric origami convention, I'm teaching a pattern that I named Harlequin. I actually have it here. It's a variation on the square twist star that I have a video for already, but you can turn it into a fractal with color change, and it really looks like you're using like 8 pieces of paper or something, 4 or 8, but it's all a single sheet. And that's yeah, if you just search geometric origami convention or 4th geometric origami convention, that will show up on the internet. And I do have still some coupon codes for that event, and you can DM me on Instagram, you can send me an email, you can message me on Discord. Like those all work. On Facebook, I'm not as responsive, mostly because I just don't get notified for a lot of things. But yeah, if you'd like to come to the geometric origami convention online, it's going to be like a origami world marathon type event. It's run by the same people. Then definitely check that out. Yeah, so it's funny, you know that your pattern is complicated when you've been folding for an hour and you are just now folding the repeats of the center. But it's one of those patterns that I think is totally worth it. Worth the complexity and the time for the grid and the pattern itself, because it's really showing that you can create as many patterns as you want with origami tessellations. There's no limits. Like, even if you restrict yourself to 2 twists, you can create as many patterns as you want. And if I had to restrict myself to just 1 twist to make many different patterns, it would be the closed triangle. But yeah, Zach, gotta bring in those Got to bring in that money for the skytone. Definitely worth it. Not food, not housing, just skytone. Got to have our priorities straight. All right. Well, that's as much as I'm going to get done in this session. I can tell there's going to be at least another hour or two of folding on this pattern before I get out to the edge of the paper. Each ring around the center takes longer and longer. I don't know if this is something that you've noticed, but the first ring around the center has 1 hexagon per side. The second ring around the center has 2. The third ring around the center has 3 hexagons per side. So as you go out, it's just increasing the number of twists that you have to fold to get around the center. And of course, 2 triangles per hexagon. But yeah, this is something where we can see even more clearly than before. Like, we have this straight bar going straight through this little infinity loop. And yeah, this pattern then can repeat as long as you're willing to fold the grid for it. And yeah, Zach, that particular batch of white skytone, like, I've had other white skytone that was better, but this particular batch is somewhat less durable than the typical skytone paper. So fingers crossed that that was a single batch issue and not a white skytone issue, because I have other white skytone that was the same strength as all the other colors. But yeah, and actually, Zach, while you're here, there's a couple other really similar papers that I'm planning, well, one in particular that I'm planning to start buying that has like pink and green and gold, and hopefully they're still producing those. It's still in stock somewhat on their website, but hopefully I can get those nice colors available for the paper packs again. So, all right, I'll leave it there. Happy folding, everyone. See you next week. Next week is talking about all the different patterns that I've been folding since December, that I just put in Tessellation Garden. And there are 32 of them, including 2 of these big ones. So keep an eye out for that. Same time, same place. Happy folding, and see you then.